do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indie Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indie Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indies Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indies Sports Ticket. You can head over there and subscribe. I'm streaming on my personal YouTube today as well, because why not? My take is you can go check that channel out as well. You can also watch the show on X__Jonathan Smith to follow me there. You can also listen on that Indie Sports Ticket app. You can download that wherever you find your apps, or you can listen on 1430 AM in your car. Game 6 tonight between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder is going on. And I can't wait. 8:30. I got the groove in my couch. It's all set up. And I'm going to sit there and I'm going to watch the whole thing. And I'm going to hope that Tyrese Haliburton plays tonight. And I'm going to hope that he plays well, right? That is the biggest story coming into this, whether or not Tyrese Haliburton plays. If he plays, then I feel pretty good about, the Pacers and their chances to win tonight. But if he doesn't play, I don't feel good at all about the chances of the Pacers finding a way to win this game. But they do have some things working in their favor. One of those things working in their favor is the fact that Rick Carlisle is their head coach. Rick Carlisle, personally, he's my favorite head coach of all time. I think he's one of the 10 best coaches in the history of basketball. Okay, the championship with Dallas it gives him the championship that he needs. And if the Pacers are able to come back down 3-2 against this Oklahoma City Thunder team that has been so good all year long, then he'll be a lock for a top 10 head coach of all time. But the biggest thing going for Coach Carlisle has been his ability to change and adapt as basketball has changed throughout the time that he's been coaching. Like Coach Carlisle, he's been around a minute. And the other day, scrolling on X, and I came across Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce discussing Pacers head coach Rick Carlisle and what he's done in these finals. And I think that the way that they talk about Coach Carlisle in this clip perfectly sums up why he is such a great coach and why the Pacers have a legitimate chance to win tonight, even if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play.
He don't get his due. And he's so unorthodox. Paul made a great point yesterday. He was watching the game, and P said, you know what I'm noticing? Man, there are no switches. They went back to a traditional basketball way of getting and sliding through picks. Mm-hmm. And we was watching the game, and for about 4 to 7 minutes, we were watching a component of traditional basketball.
On both sides.
And then it jumped back into where we are now. Yeah. And we was watching this unorthodox going back and forth, and I was like, bro, you seeing this?
Right.
And it was to his genius. It actually made the game like conducive to watch. Because we was watching them hard slide through, and I was like, dog, did he just slide through this? Like, man, he's
going through all the picks.
I think both coaches are pushing each other to be better and everything. And I don't think Rick gets his due, man. He's one of probably the more traditional coaches that has made the wave and jumped the wave. He wasn't so big on his way. I think his way has evolved in all of this. And that's growth, man. Shout out to Rick, man. He don't really get a lot of due, man. But I think as you win and as you be successful, man, the shit speaks for itself. So shout out to Rick Carlisle, man.
I agree with you. He don't get his due. No, for sure. I mean, he helped build up that Detroit team before they won the finals.
I was gonna say that,
right? Obviously, what he did for Dallas. Before Doc, they was trying to get him to coach the Celtics.
Really?
Before Doc came, he was on the short list. I remember that to come to the Celtics. I always had a good admiration for him and his style. He's evolved. He ain't. How these older coaches, they just don't know how to coach the new. He evolved to this because the style he had in Dallas is completely different than the style he played in Indiana, whereas coaches be so stubborn and like, this is the way we're going to play. Like, you see that with Tibbs. Tibbs got to evolve.
Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce right there. I love hearing Kevin Garnett talk about basketball just because of the intensity in his voice. I just think it's really cool that there are some players who retire and they still clearly love basketball as much as they did when they played. And I feel like whenever I hear Kevin Garnett talk, he kind of gives off that impression. But as they said, we've seen Coach Carlisle build successful teams around all sorts of different types of players. Okay, when he was the head coach in Detroit, that team won with defense. when he was the head coach here in Indiana the first time in the early 2000s. They won with defense, and they ran their offense through the post, through Jermaine O'Neal. Ron Artest, large part of that team's success on both sides of the basketball as well. He was their second leading scorer when he was the head coach there, which is, for me, it's just kind of crazy to think of Ron Artest as some sort of like prolific scorer, but that's, not important for tonight's game. Then Coach Carlisle goes to Dallas, where he helps, them win a championship, right? Where he built a great offense around Dirk Nowitzki, and, he built a pretty good defense despite having Dirk Nowitzki on the floor for 40 minutes a night. And the offense didn't really have a legitimate second option. Jason Terry was the leading scorer. He was the leading scorer. He was the second leading scorer for the Mavericks, and he came off the bench. Like, his ability to just figure out how to create these successful teams with what he has is really, really cool. And then the Mavericks win the title with Coach Carlisle in 2011. They aren't good for a while because they, instead of running the team back and trying to repeat, they just kind of got rid of everyone. They were bad there for a bit. And because they were bad, they were able to draft Luka Doncic. And then Coach Carlisle builds this heliocentric offense around Luka Doncic, and they win a bunch of games, and they set a record for the highest offensive rating in the history of the sport. And now he's here in Indianapolis, and in a basketball world where currently teams just kind of give the ball to their best player, and then they say go do everything. Like we're seeing it with the Thunder. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander initiates everything. And if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is on the bench, then Jalen Williams is on the floor, and he initiates everything. And Rick Carlisle has built this offense that doesn't do that. And part of that is because Tyrese Haliburton is his best player. That's part of it, right? And this sort of offense fits him very well. And because Carlisle has built this perfect offense that perfectly suits his best player, Tyrese Haliburton, they've now had back-to-back seasons with deep playoff runs, obviously getting to the NBA Finals this year and the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Coach Carlisle, he's one of the best coaches in the history of the NBA. Why do I bring this up? I think at their core, I've talked about this, like superstar basketball players at their core just create good shots for themselves and for others. I think great coaches, football, basketball, baseball, whatever, they're just elite problem solvers. They just have this mental ability to just figure things out. Like a guy gets hurt and they know perfectly how to tweak the roster and the minutes to make up for the absence of said player. We saw this in the Eastern Conference Finals last year when Tyrese Haliburton tweaked his hamstring. And all of a sudden you got Nembhard going crazy. Okay, coaches, the best ones, are really just elite problem solvers. And I think Coach Carlisle is an elite problem solver. And he has a potentially to show off that skill tonight if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play. The team becomes much different if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play. There's a lot more TJ McConnell, and I know that fires some people up, and I know for other people, it makes them not as excited. And that's okay. I don't really know how to feel about more TJ McConnell. The best version of TJ McConnell, it gets me really excited, but there's also this bad version of TJ McConnell where he's turning the ball over and he's dribbling himself into trouble too often. Not a fan of that version. So we'll see if more TJ McConnell is a good or bad thing tonight. Andrew Nembhard becomes heavily involved. Like, he's going to initiate the offense every time down. Now, the defense of the Pacers, if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play tonight, it'll be better and it'll be more important. Okay, we're going to talk to Tony East about that coming up here in about 10 minutes. He's going to join the show. We saw Coach Carlisle coach big-time playoff games last year without Tyrese Haliburton, right? Games 3 and 4 against the Celtics. The Pacers didn't have Tyrese Haliburton because of that hamstring that I just mentioned. They lost each game by 3 points. And if the Pacers were a little more experienced, if they had gone through, some of the situations that they've been through in this year's playoff run, then they probably win both of those games. I just think that the experience of the Celtics in those games last year kind of allowed them to overcome the Pacers late. Okay. And They lost each game by 3 points against a really good Boston Celtics team. And part of why the Pacers were in those games was because of their ability to just kind of slot guys into the offense. The offense didn't really change much when Tyrese Haliburton went out. Now, it wasn't as efficient. They didn't have as much shooting because Tyrese Haliburton's one of the best shooters on this roster. All right. No one's role really changes a ton. And I think that's why the offense looks fine even when Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play. It's obviously better when he's on the floor, but it looks the same when he's gone. Andrew Nembhard tonight, if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play, he's going to initiate the offense more than normal. If it's not him, then it'll be McConnell. Probably a little bit of Mathurin in there as well. Okay, he's been doing that all year, though. Like all three of those players, Mathurin, McConnell, Nembhard, they've all had different stretches throughout the season where they've had opportunities to initiate the offense. So with Tyrese Haliburton, potentially, I think he's going to play. But if he doesn't, like those guys are comfortable in those roles. Pascal Siakam is going to get more touches than normal. That's not a bad thing. He got a lot of touches in Game 5. It's going to go up if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play tonight. Miles Turner and Aaron Nesmith are going to have to make threes because they're going to get more looks. They are. It's going to be tougher to get into the lane because, you're not going to have Haliburton coming off that high ball screen, kind of probing around and finding guys. Okay, so what does that mean? It means more Miles Turner threes. It means more Aaron Nesmith threes. And if they're going to find a way to beat this really tough Thunder defense, they're going to have to make those shots. So I don't think that the offense changes too much. It becomes slightly less efficient because they don't have their best player. But the defense, that to me is what if anything changes, that to me is what we're going to see change. The Pacers are going to be better on the defensive end of the floor tonight if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play. Now, Tyrese Haliburton, you can tell, put in a lot of work in the offseason to improve his defense. And we've seen it throughout these playoffs. He has done a really good job of holding his own and not just being a cone on defense like he was last year in those two games against the Boston Celtics. Against Cleveland, when they would get Donovan Mitchell switched onto him, he would hold his own, right? He hasn't had to defend SGA or Jalen Williams too much in this series, but when he's had to, he's held his own. Against Milwaukee, he held his own. With that being said, if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play tonight, Bennedict Mathurin's probably going to be, slid into that starting lineup, and he's a better defender and rebounder than Tyrese Haliburton is. And so while the offense, I don't think will change too much, I do think we'll see the defense change a little bit. I'll be interested to see if there's any tweaks. Are the Pacers a little more willing to switch? Because I really think that they're fine with Mathurin, Nesmith, or Nembhard defending Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams. I think they're fine with any one of those three guys. So do we see them a little more willing to switch? Do they, double a little bit more? I'm very intrigued to see if they tweak any of the defensive rules if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play tonight. Okay. Even if he does play, because Jalen Williams has been tearing those dudes up ever since Game 1. So the offense shouldn't change much, but the defense will. And like I said, I think Tyrese Haliburton is going to play tonight. I don't want to redo my show from Tuesday, Monday, whatever it was. But with that being said, Tyrese Haliburton got hurt in the second quarter. He played the second half like normal. He looked better in the second half than he did in that first half. He's getting a ton of treatment all the time right now for that calf. Okay, the medical advances are kind of crazy, but he's going to play tonight. I'd be very surprised if he didn't. Hopefully we don't have this Kevin Durant situation where, he comes out and he tries to play and he looks good early and then he tears his Achilles. I hope that doesn't happen. That would not be good because he is only 25 and tearing your Achilles at 25 sounds terrible. When the show's over today, I'm going to go to the gym, and if I tore my Achilles, I would not. That would not be good at all. So we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if he played less minutes. And I was thinking about this last night. Would you rather? And if you're watching on YouTube, hop in the chat and let me know. Would you rather get 25 minutes of Tyrese Haliburton full tilt, just the best version of Haliburton where he's breaking the paint and he's doing all of the Tyrese Haliburton things? Like, would you rather 25 minutes of that, or would you rather get like 35 minutes of Haliburton at like 80%? I don't really know. I think I would rather have him like 25 minutes at 100%, because 100% of Tyrese Haliburton is, top 12 basketball player in the world. So I don't know. Tony East, he's set to join the show here in about 5 minutes. I will talk to him about that. We're going to talk a little bit probably about Miles Turner, about my take yesterday on the center position in the NBA. So make sure you're tuned in for this interview with Tony East. He's coming your way here in about 4 minutes.
may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, X, or the Indy Sports Ticket app. I am now joined by the one and only Tony East, who's just a freaking warrior for coming on my show today. He's just running around. He's writing articles. He's doing podcasts for Locked On Pacers, so make sure you go check out all of his stuff at Tony R. East on X. What's going on, Tony? How are you?
I'm good, man. We'll see if the finals are done tonight, but I hope there's 7 games because this has been a fun series.
It has been. Were you at practice, or I guess the walkthrough yesterday that the Pacers went through?
I was, yes.
How did Haliburton look? I know it's just a walkthrough, but I that's kind of the big question going into tonight's game.
Yeah, he mostly was just doing shooting and nobody was really running into shots at all on the team, so it was hard to tell if this was real full speed stuff or not. But the only noticeable thing that I was was that he was wearing the starter practice jersey and not just any uniform, him and Siakam and Nesmith, whatever, had the same uniform on. So I think that he was moving okay and that he was wearing a jersey that suggested he was walking through with the starters. And he said he's a game time decision. I think we'll find out today officially. But yeah, I think it was, at least if you had to put it on the positive or negative scale, what we were able to see, it's 55 positive, 45 negative, just that we didn't really see him run that much.
That's totally fair. And I kind of figured, I don't think that they were going to let him do anything for you guys to walk away and be like, oh, yeah, he's definitely playing one way or the other. With that being said, my take has just kind of been, he hurt it in the second quarter, and I felt like he played a normal amount of minutes in the second half after hurting it. I think he's going to play tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, it was really interesting because I don't know exactly when it happened. I think it was either late first or early second, but when he came out for McConnell with 3 minutes before halftime, I was like, oh man, something's up for sure. And he obviously was off ball a lot in that second quarter. So I wasn't sure he was going to play in the second half at that point. And then McConnell came in earlier than normal in the third, all kind of goofy regardless. The fact that he was able to play 30-something minutes and then told us he's going to try to play and then had an MRI. And then now we haven't heard anything yet. Makes me think that if it's not grade 3, he'll try to push through. If that's good or not, we'll find out during the game, I guess. But if you made me test my gut, I would say, yeah, I think he's also going to play, but I don't think he'll be close to his usual effectiveness.
I talked about this earlier, and I'm interested your take on it. Would you rather get 25 minutes of Tyrese Haliburton at 100% or 35 minutes of Haliburton at 80%?
35 at 80 probably, mostly just because TJ McConnell can't play that much. Not that he's not good enough to play more. He is very good when he plays, especially in the last 3 games. He's really upped his level in the series. It's just the reason TJ McConnell doesn't play more than 25 minutes is that he's 33, and if he could play the way he does for more minutes, he would, right? It's hard at his age to play the way he does for long stretches, and so I think that they would need Haliburton to play more and hope that they can squeeze out a rotation at guard, because if he plays 25 and then you get 23 out of McConnell, that's great, I guess. But, what's your Nemhard situation at that point? It's tricky to put that all together.
Joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers. Follow him on X at Tony R. East. He does a great job writing and covering the Pacers as well. A major topic in this series, obviously outside of Haliburton and his lower right leg, has been Miles Turner. Not a great series from him. There's been moments where it's Miles Turner looks really good tonight, but I feel like it's been more bad than good. What have your thoughts been on him kind of throughout the series?
Yeah, the shot's not falling, which is obviously bad. They need role players to make shots in this series anyway, and against this OKC defense, guys like him who can space are important, and he has not made them right at all. They've been really off, really short on that key 3 he took at the end of game 4, free throws, off to the side. He's hit some shots, but not efficient enough, which is a big problem. His defense has been fine enough, I guess. So it's been kind of up and down. The thing that's interesting is the game that everybody commented on Haliburton kind of being shut down. I felt like they needed Turner to be more involved, kind of as that top of the key fulcrum guy who's swinging it side to side, setting a bunch of screens. I feel like he's been good at that stuff, but he needs to be like more effective at the actual big plays he's doing, which is the putting points on the board plays, and those have just not been good enough at all. And given how important Chet Holmgren's been defensively in this series, they really need Miles to step up from an efficiency perspective, because that's been a big miss for them that they haven't had. All playoffs he's been rock solid, and all of a sudden in this series he hasn't been. So, a lot of the stuff that they need him to do, he's done, but the put the ball in the basket part of his game just hasn't been there.
It hasn't been. I'm kind of hoping Game 5 gets him going a little bit. I thought that was my favorite game he's played. He went to the rim a lot more. He only logged 5 official field goal attempts, but he took 7 free throws. He made 6 of them. I'm hoping that kind of gets him going a little bit. And I'm going to look out into the offseason a little bit, and then we can come back to the game tonight. My take on centers is that, like, this is the hardest it's ever been to play center in the NBA, just because you have to be able to do so many things. I think there's really only 2 quote-unquote perfect centers in the league on both ends of the floor. I think it's Evan Mobley and obviously Wemby. And so my thing is, like, I think you need multiple centers who just kind of give you different looks. So, like, if I was the Pacers, like, I think I would bring Miles Turner back at that probably $30 million a year mark. And I would try to go get a third string center that's not Tony Bradley, someone who just gives me a different look, like like a Paul Reed, someone who can just kind of come in and rebound if you need that, because I feel like the Pacers kind of missed that against the Knicks. So what is kind of your perception of what the Pacers are going to do with Miles Turner this offseason, and what they're going to do with that backup center spot? Because that's been an issue ever since, the 2 guys that were supposed to be the backup centers tore their Achilles within the first week of the season.
Yeah, you need to have skilled 5s now, right? Like, the traditional 5 is dead. If you're a traditional 5 on offense, you have to be like an amazing defender to be really good, and that doesn't really exist. Like, basically, that's only Gobert. Like, everyone else is, exceptional at something with skill, whether that's shooting or passing or handoffs, to be a really great center. I guess Şengün's probably the closest, but he's a great passer as well. And so Turner's obviously very skilled, right? He can shoot it. He's got touch. He's a 3-level scorer as a big. He can do stuff with, like, that fulcrum-y stuff I was talking about, swinging the ball side to side. Like, that's an important skill to have for the Pacers, and is obviously an above-average defender at the position. And, tough time to say this because he's having a bad series, has been a playoff performer the last 2 years, in large part positive, which matters for the Pacers. Their whole focus of additions and subtractions is playoff focus now. Once you make the finals, forget the regular season, you're looking for playoff guys, right? So, yeah, my strong suspicion is that they will bring back Miles Turner and pay what it costs. And if it means they have to lose somebody else, maybe they'll do so. I don't know that they'll need to. It depends on what their appetite is for a luxury tax bill. But yes, I assume that Turner will be back. He is a skilled center who fits them very well, and they're a good team. As for the backups, yeah, look, who they have now is not good enough. They still have the bird rights on Isaiah Jackson, so they could keep him if they wanted to. Who knows what he'll be like coming off of an Achilles injury, right? Like, I've heard from some players who've gone through that they were healthy enough to play within a year, so maybe he could actually physically be ready to play to start next season, but it took them like a year and a half to feel like themselves. So maybe they want a third center who's going to play to start the season. Who knows what that could be? Like, Thomas Bryant can shoot it a little, I guess. Maybe if you have him be your bridge third center to start the season, and then Isaiah Jackson becomes the backup. I don't know. It's just that's just the internal guys. There's countless free agents. Center is the easiest position to just like find someone, right? Because there's so many tall people. So I think the third one is less important. I agree with you though that like a rebounding type would be nice. I think the theory of Tony Bradley is that's why he's playing. But yeah, I think I would try to bring back Isaiah Jackson as the Pacers, but it depends what he'd be asking for coming off that injury.
Yeah, joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers, talking about Pacers Thunder Game 6 tonight. Aaron Nesmith has been a guy that I don't think has been talked about enough in this series. He's had a really good playoffs up until this point. Jalen Williams just gives him issues. like after Game 1, Jalen Williams has gotten pretty much whatever he wanted when being defended by Aaron Nesmith. Why do you think Nesmith has struggled so much defensively in this series against Williams?
Head scratcher, honestly. Like, that doesn't seem like a mismatch to me. And Game 3 was the only one where I felt like it was like truly only Nesmith that needed to be better there. Like game 3, that dude just straight line to the rim, cut across the lane, floater, bucket, straight line to the rim, fadeaway bucket. I was like, man, he's cooking him. I'm sure Neesmith checked the film on that one because, like, since then, don't get me wrong, he's had off the dribble success, but a lot of it's like come with the screen or he's cut really well or something like that, where it's like a team defense level thing or like a second chance point and then someone flips him. He's been so good at filling gaps these last 2 games and scoring a bunch of points off that kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, like Neesmith has to guard him better. He's still driving into the paint way too easily, and I'm very surprised by that. Like the end of game 4, he would just set screens, Neesmith switches on the SGA bucket. Like it, you need more from your second best defender as the Pacers in a moment like that, and they need him to slow down J-Dub. Like 40 points is a ton, and Neesmith's been guarding him. He said he'll try to be better in game 6 when I asked him about it after game 5. Right? Certainly, he's just filling in so many ways that they need to help him, right? They need to help Aaron Neesmith in some way. And it's not good that they need to help on Jalen Williams, but I think they just need to try to shut off the paint for those guys. And if they get beat by 3, so be it, because SGA and J-Dub have been so good the whole series.
They have been, like, both of them, man. Like, they're both just – look, I think everyone knew coming into the series that the Thunder were the better team, but the Pacers have just defied the odds so many times that you knew that you couldn't write them off. And part of why they've defied the odds is Andrew Nembhard, a guy who, like, we started this playoffs and everyone was like, playoff Andrew Nembhard's back. He's just going to make everything. And that's slowly kind of faded away. What have you made of his final series so far?
Yeah, the run of playoff either Drew has ended. It hasn't been, like, he's still been a fine scorer, I guess, but the threes haven't fallen at a 50% clip like they were earlier in the playoffs. And, like, he's missed some of those, I would say, like what I think of his bread and butter shot, that little off the dribble D-cell midi that he can hit from 10 to 15 feet, hasn't dropped every time. Like, he's got to make shots, and I don't think he's had a bad series at all. He's been pretty good, I think, on balance, honestly, but just another guy that's a part of the Pacers' offensive woes in this series, and he's been missing in a way that's, like, not because the Thunder defense is amazing, right? He's just been missing shots that he can make, which is problematic for them in a series where they need guys to make shots that they can make, and sometimes it's that simple. It's the same way with Turner. Like, he's taking shots that he can make and isn't. So Drew's defense has been largely good. I mean, SGA is so amazing, and there's obviously everybody has some possessions they want back in a matchup like that. I think the thing that Drew's going to hate about his final series is these turnovers, like especially in game 5, just all of them felt like they were at the worst time. Like, Pacers on a run, they cut it to 4, they have the ball, and then he loses it. They're down 4 after cutting it to 2. He throws it in the backcourt. Like, it just was so painful, and that's been kind of his biggest problem this season, when they need him to be a lead ball handler, which is possible in this coming game with Haliburton hurt. His turnovers have been a problem. His handle's been a little too loose. So the jumper part doesn't really mean anything to me. The defense has been fine, but he's got to value the ball and value possessions more.
He does, and that's the biggest thing. Like, I forget what the number is, but the Thunder have won more games than any other team in the NBA while shooting a lower field goal percentage. And they just kind of out-possession people because they rebound well enough and they force a million turnovers. And like you said, like, if Haliburton's not going to play tonight, then Nembhard has to be better. I keep going back and just thinking about the Eastern Conference Finals last year, games 3 and 4, Nembhard being amazing against Drew Holiday and Derek White. But this Thunder defense is just, it's so different. We're probably not going to get, 24, 10, and 7 or whatever he had last year in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
If, because this is sports radio, so we have to do all these different hypotheticals. If Haliburton doesn't play tonight, who's the 5th starter for the Pacers?
Ben Mathurin would be my choice, and then just have Drew run point, which is ironic given what I just said. He's not doing very well. Look, like, McConnell obviously will be everybody's natural answer, but I think that they need him to be a bench threat to keep up their consistent scoring efforts for a whole game, and that'll still be possible. And then they could just run a lot of Nembhard-McConnell units to get their 2-point guard lineups out there that they like. But I think Mathurin would be the choice because it ups your defensive ability potentially if you're starting 5. They had success with Mathurin in there throughout the season, albeit with Tyrese Haliburton. Last year they went with Shepherd in the Boston series. I don't think they can do that. I don't think they can play Shepherd at all the rest of the series, honestly. Like, we've already seen his minutes decrease. So my guess would be Mathurin. He's one of the few guys who can punch into the lane. against this Thunder team. And if he can do that and score, that's valuable. If he can guard a little bit on switches on those two Thunder stars, that's valuable. He's had an up and down series, certainly. Amazing at times, not as amazing as others, but his amazing game got them a win. So I would go with Mathurin. He's got the best two-way chance of success, and just hope the rotation can fall into place the rest of the way. And if that's how I would do it, Shepherd obviously would have to play a little bit at that point to give him some rest, but that's kind of how I would handle it as Carlisle.
Tony East of Locked On Pacers. Follow him on X at Tony R. East. I think that's what I do too, just because, like you said, like he's athletic enough to get into the lane and finish and get fouled. And defensively, which is the last thing that I want to touch on here. Obviously, like whether Haliburton plays or not, I think the offense looks really similar. It's obviously not as good, but the system remains the same. If Haliburton doesn't play, in theory, they should be better on defense, even though Haliburton has been much improved defensively throughout these playoffs compared to last year. Do you think any of the help rules change? Do you think that they're more willing to switch if it's Mathurin instead of Haliburton tonight? How does him potentially being out impact the way that the Pacers defend this Thunder team?
Yeah, truly, like his defense is what I would worry about the most if he plays or doesn't play. Like if he's not moving well, they're going to target him a lot. That should be a problem for the Pacers. So I think that they just have to help a ton, right? Squeeze in the paint, make the paint really tiny. If three-pointers are wide open for OKC all night, you got to live with that. You got to hope variance is on your side if you're going to have Tyrese Haliburton play and be good enough to help you. And so regardless of who starts, I honestly would kind of be living with that strategy. Like the Thunder were terrible on threes in game 6, right? That gave the Pacers a chance, or game 4, they gave the Pacers a chance to win that game, right? They were up 4 with 3 minutes to go because they were 3 for 20 or whatever it was for the game. And so certainly that's how I would be focusing on it. Like J-Dub has been awesome. Shea's been awesome. The rest of the Thunder half-court offense has been pretty mediocre, I think, right? It's okay. So that's kind of how switching is just risky, right? You never know what kind of bad matchups you're going to end up with. And they've ended up with quite a few in poor transition or whatever throughout this series. So I wouldn't switch more. I wouldn't give them mismatches to poke at because their half-court offense is kind of I would try to kind of make them beat you with their role guys. And if that happens, okay, you lose. Like that's kind of something you have to live with. But I think that's the only way they can go down.
Totally agree. Last thing. So I've got a TV on while I do the show in case there's any breaking news or anything. So I'm just going to read you the question that they're currently discussing on FS1. What would a finals MVP do for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's legacy?
Yeah, I mean, you have a great resume. Probably be a Hall of Famer already. Golly.
Would he be better than Michael Jordan? I don't know. Maybe.
Yuck.
Tony,
Yuck.
Thanks for your time, man. Have a good time tonight. Hopefully, we're talking about a crazy Game 7 at some point next week.
That's right.
Hopefully.
It's on the table.
Oh, wait, here. Oh, wait. Who do you think wins tonight? Let me ask you that.
Man, if the Pacers need a magnet ball game, I just think the Thunder are better. And if Haliburton's banged up, I would give the Thunder the favorites. I would give them the stronger odds to win. But, yeah, I'm picking OKC, even though I think the Pacers certainly have a chance at home.
No doubt. Tony, thanks for your time, man.
You got it.
See you. That is Tony East. Check him out on X at Tony R. East. He does a great job covering this Pacers team. Check out that Locked On Pacers podcast as well. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, we're going to continue to talk about Tyrese Haliburton and his calf injury. We're going to hear from him directly. He talked about it for 5 minutes yesterday. You could tell he really didn't want to. So when we come back here in about 4 minutes, we're going to have Tyrese Haliburton talking about his calf injury.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, I'm streaming the show on my personal YouTube page today as well. My take is you can head over and subscribe to that as well. You can also watch the show on X __ Jonathan Smith to follow me there, watch the show there. You can always listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, but you can download wherever you find your apps. Now, Ridger, I believe it was him, asked me earlier in the YouTube chat if I was rooting for Arkansas in the College World Series. Yeah, I was. I don't really want to talk about the game last night, so that's all that I'm going to say about it. Pacers potentially not are going to play tonight without Tyrese Haliburton. There's this scenario where Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play, and the Pacers have a plan for it. Coach Carlisle talked about it a little bit yesterday. He also talked about how they have bigger issues than Tyrese Haliburton potentially not playing. Here's Coach Carlisle yesterday talking about this Pacers team, and he talks a little bit in there about Haliburton maybe not playing.
You know, it's the two things right now that are really bothersome and challenging for us is the rebounding, the second shot rebounds, and the turnover. So we're going to do our best to address those things. But as far as Tyrese, he'll go through the day tomorrow. Our prep sessions tomorrow, late afternoon, and they'll get together and do some testing, and that will determine whether he plays or not. And if he doesn't play, we have a plan, obviously, if we're without him.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about whether or not Haliburton's going to play. He's got to go through some stuff. They're going to do some testing today, and hopefully the news breaks here at some point whether or not he's going to play tonight. And if he doesn't play tonight, I'm going to speculate what this kind of looks like. I've been pounding the table all really playoffs long for Pascal Siakam to get touches. More touches for Pascal Siakam, especially in this series. And I'm going to start early. Pascal Siakam has to touch the basketball more than he did in Game 5. And they were really good about getting him the ball in Game 5. They have to continue to be conscious of where he is all game. And the Thunder know that he becomes more important, so it's going to be tougher to get him the basketball. I wouldn't be surprised if the Thunder started to double him or if they swarmed him more than they already have in this series. And if that happens, he then has to distribute the basketball well. You know, he's averaged somewhere around 5 assists per game this year. It's not a bad number. It's not a great number either, right? But it indicates that he's got some playmaking ability. Okay, he has to avoid turning the basketball over because he's going to get swarmed more tonight if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play. And he's, for the most part, done a pretty good job of that. You know, I know in Game 5 he was bad, 6 turnovers. Little reminder, though, 3 of those came pretty early in the first quarter, and he was fine after that. In Game 4, he had 1 turnover, 0 turnovers in Game 3, 2 turnovers in Game 2, and then 1 turnover in Game 1. He can't have another 6 turnover game in Game 6. That won't get it done whether Tyrese Haliburton plays or not. He's going to have the ball too often tonight, whether Haliburton plays or not, to turn it over consistently. Can't happen, okay? Like, this has to be a good decision-making game from Pascal Siakam because they're missing their best decision-maker, potentially. Okay, he had a rough first quarter in Game 5, right? He was playing too fast. You know, 3 of his first 6 turnovers came in that quarter. But once he slowed down, he was fine. Like, the Pacers have come out in a few of these games now overly amped, where they're just like running and gunning, and this ball's got to go here, and it's got to come here, and then I got to cut. And then, you know, the next thing you know, the ball's flying out of bounds. They're dribbling it off their foot. They're, you know, getting stripped because they're just going too fast. Like, they have to play under more control tonight when the game starts. And that's not just a Pascal Siakam thing. That is an everybody thing. Okay. But ultimately, I'm not worried about Pascal Siakam. I think he's going to be awesome tonight. This is the guy, Pascal Siakam, who scored 26 points on 10 of 17 shooting in Game 6 of the NBA Finals to put the Golden State Warriors away. He's going to be ready to go. I think he's going to have a really big game. Like, if he got 30 tonight, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. Okay, he's played in big games like this before. I think he's going to be fine. Okay, it's everyone else that I'm worried about if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play, because they're going to need, and that's all caps, need everybody else. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the Pacers take more threes in this game for a couple reasons. One, they're obviously, if this is all hypothetically, if Haliburton doesn't play, like if he doesn't play, then they're not going to have him probing around, finding cutters, making good post-entry passes, which has been really tough for the Pacers in this series. And because, if you're not finding cutters and you're not throwing the ball inside, then you better hit some threes. Not only because, the Pacers are probably going to take more without Haliburton, but it's the ultimate equalizer. If the Pacers get 43s up and they make 17 of them, then their chances of winning, whether Tyrese Haliburton plays or not, are going to be pretty high. If you go 17 of 40 from three. Okay, they have to make threes tonight if they're going to win without Tyrese Haliburton. That means Miles Turner, a guy who has been discussed time and time again throughout these playoffs with that, contract extension coming up this summer. He's got to break out of his slump. And I do think that there's a pretty decent chance that it happens for him tonight. He played his best game of the series in Game 5. Someone hit the text line yesterday during Dan's show. By the way, 317-228-1430 is the text number if you want to hit that up or not. And said that I said yesterday that Miles Turner played great. That is not what I said. I said he played his best game of the series. That is not the same thing. Anyway, played his best game of the series in Game 5, 13 points on 3 of 5 shooting, went to the rim a lot, which I like, was 6 of 7 from the foul line. He got fouled when he went to the rim. And the free throw line is a beautiful, beautiful place because it can just get you going. And we've seen it in this series, right? It got Jalen Williams going. He didn't play very well in Game 1. He only took 4 free throws. All of a sudden in Game 2, he takes 9 free throws. He makes 8 of them, and he's been torching the Pacers ever since that happened. And I'm hoping that we see something similar with Miles Turner, right? He only took 2 threes last game. He was 1 of 2. Now, hopefully that gives him some confidence coming into this next game, just seeing the ball go through the basket consistently, because he has to be an offensive threat tonight. And that's whether Haliburton plays or not. He's got to hit some shots from the perimeter. We can't have another 0 of 6 from 3 night like he had in Game 4. Okay? Now, look, I like that he went to the rim in Game 5. Hopefully he does that more tonight. And hopefully he can pair that with some three-point shooting as well, just to kind of open up that Thunder defense to pull Chet Holmgren away from the rim. Because right now, they're not having to worry about him at all because he's in such a big slump. Okay? So they need a big game from him, whether Tyrese Haliburton plays or not. Benedict Mathurin and TJ McConnell both have to be good again. Let's start with Mathurin. He's very unique. If Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play, I think we're going to see quite a bit from him because he can get his own shot. He can get to the rim. He's become a good defender. And if Haliburton doesn't play, then they're going to need more offense and they're going to need more defense because your chances of getting, to 115 points without Haliburton becomes really tough. Benedict Mathurin can be instant offense on some nights. It feels like he's been boom or bust all playoffs. He's either scored 13 points or more, or he's barely scored. He's got one game with 11. Every other game, he's been at eight points or less. Okay, so there's some nights where he's great. There's some nights where he's not very good, right? And the nights where he's great are a lot of fun. Obviously Game 3 where he scores 27 points in 22 minutes. That was awesome. Game 3 against Cleveland, he had 23 off the bench. Against the Knicks, he had 20 points in Game 4, 23 points in Game 5. And he needs to have one of those nights tonight if Haliburton doesn't play, even though it'd be nice if he did this, if he played as well. He needs to have one of those nights where he takes 10 free throws and he hits a couple threes and he finds his way to the rim time and time again. A lot of free throws for Benedict Mathurin is usually an indicator that he's having a good, strong, and impactful game. It's the nights where, he takes 3 foul shots that I become worried about his performance. So he's got to take free throws tonight. Simple as that. Okay. Andrew Nembhard, he has to be great. Whether Tyrese Haliburton plays or not, he has to be an important factor, right? He's got a big assignment on defense, obviously having to deal with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's not easy. But the Pacers are putting the ball in his hands no matter what tonight. And he has to be up for it. Okay, the 4 turnovers he had in Game 5 were bad. They were not good. The errant throw out of bounds to Benedict Mathurin that would have resulted in a layup was one of the worst turnovers I've seen an NBA player commit this year, regular season or postseason. The dribble handoff to Tyrese Haliburton that ended up going into the backcourt, like that was a brutal mistake as well, and he can't make those mistakes tonight. He has to be better. He's just slowly gotten worse as the series has progressed. Game 1, his best game of the series by far. 14 points, 6 assists, 2 turnovers. And since then, like, it just hasn't been very good. Game 2, 11 points, 4 assists, 1 turnover. That's fine, right? Not a great game, not a bad one either. Game 3, 8 points, 1 assist, 3 turnovers. Not very good. Game 4, 10 points, 4 assists, 4 turnovers. That's not good. Then in game 5, he had 7 points, 3 assists, and 4 turnovers. It's not very good either. He has slowly gotten worse over the course of this series, and that can't continue tonight. He has to be good if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play. And if he does play, then he needs to be good. Okay? Like, he has to be impactful on both offense and defense. And offensively, it starts with not turning the basketball over. Okay? Like, he was really good in game 1, and they gave him the ball a lot in game 1, and they allowed him to make choices with the ball in his hands, and he handled it like a pro. He looked like a normal point guard, and he should, because he played a lot of guard in college, and he's initiated the offense a fairly decent amount this year as well. He's got to be better tonight if the Pacers want to have a chance to win, and that's whether Tyrese Haliburton plays or not. And I've got some faith in it, just because when you look at the history of Andrew Nembhard, like, he's had some big playoff moments, and I want to talk about those moments and what they mean for tonight when we come back at 11 o'clock.
do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. You can head over there and subscribe. Maybe watching on X, __ Jonathan Smith. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Game 6 tonight between the Pacers and the Thunder. There is some potential for Tyrese Haliburton to not play tonight. Hopefully he does play, because obviously the Pacers, they're much better off if he plays than if he doesn't, because, he's one of the 15 best basketball players in the world, and he is the best player on this Pacers team. And if he doesn't play, though, Andrew Nembhard is going to become super important for this basketball team. By the way, the line right now is Thunder -6. That tells me that Tyrese Haliburton's probably playing. Okay, if he wasn't going to play, then the Pacers would probably be, double-digit dogs. Seriously. So last year, however, we saw this Pacers team play without Haliburton, right? Games 3 and 4 against the Boston Celtics happened. Haliburton hurt his hamstring, and he wasn't able to play in those final 2 games. And so what happened? Andrew Nembhard played, and he played really well. 32 points and 9 assists in Game 3 against the Boston Celtics with no Tyrese Haliburton. Then Game 4, he goes for 24 points and 10 assists, both games on incredibly good efficiency. He did all that while being defended by Drew Holiday and Derek White, 2 of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. And if you set him a ball screen, he had Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum switching onto him. Okay, that is tough sledding. That's 4 really good defenders that Andrew Nembhard had quite a bit of success against while making a lot of the decisions for the Indiana Pacers, while basically being in that Tyrese Haliburton role. I don't think he's going to be quite that good against the Thunder, because look, this is one of the best defensive teams we've seen in the history of the NBA. And they've got just a nice heavy rotation of defenders that make life tough. Like Lou Dort, I couldn't imagine playing basketball with that guy defending me. 6'3". He looks like Ray Lewis. Seriously, just big, long, and absolutely yoked in every sense of the word. And so if Haliburton doesn't play tonight, I'm assuming Nembhard will draw the Lou Dort assignment. And because of that, I don't think he'll be as good against the Thunder as he was against the Boston Celtics last year. But can he get me 18 points, 7 assists with 3 turnovers if Haliburton doesn't play? That's the mark for me. If he can get to 18 points and 7 assists, then I'll feel like the Pacers have at least a little bit of a chance to win that game. Because if he's that effective, then the attention that'll be given to Pascal Siakam should ease up, because he's going to be heavily involved, especially if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play tonight. Can he get to 18 points and 7 assists? If he can do that, then I'll feel pretty good about the Pacers and their chances going forward. He's going to have the ball way too much tonight to not be good if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play, and we'll kind of see how he looks. Speaking of Tyrese Haliburton, he did media yesterday where he was just asked questions about his calf for 5 minutes, which sounds really annoying. I think I'd lose my patience pretty quickly on that. So here's Tyrese Haliburton answering all the important questions about his calf strain.
Nothing more than you've already seen. Practiced today, did what I could. I know Coach just told you guys what the process will be tomorrow for me to play, and we're just taking it from there. I think I have to be as smart as I want to be. I have to understand the risks, ask the right questions. But I'm a competitor. I want to play. I'm gonna do everything in my power to play, and that's just what it is.
Can you give us an idea of what the treatment is like? Is it, I know, as close to 24 hours as you can do? What do you do for a strained calf? What can you do for it?
I think just around the clock stuff as much as I can. Massage, needles, hyperbaric, H-wave. Just a bunch of different things to try to get it to feel as comfortable as you can going into it. The right tape and stuff, while I am performing, and Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of medical professionals who could give you a better answer, but just doing everything that I'm told, trying to do everything I can.
Tyrese Haliburton right there, very dedicated to trying to play in the game tonight. I think he's going to play. He played the entire second half with a pretty normal, minutes load given, the injury. So I think that we're going to see him tonight. And if he does play, then it's all of the same talking points that we've talked about after every single game. Every single game. Here's this audio that I played earlier in the show. Rick Carlisle talking about the issues that they've faced so far in this series. And they're the exact same issues that they're going to have to solve tonight.
It's the two things right now that are really bothersome and challenging for us is the rebounding, the second shot rebounds and the turnover. So we're going to do our best to address those things. But as far as Tyrese,
whether Tyrese Haliburton plays tonight or not, Coach Carlisle right there kind of laying out the two things that have plagued them this whole series. Whether Tyrese Haliburton plays or not, the Pacers can't turn the ball over if they want to win. Whether Tyrese Haliburton plays or not tonight, they have to be able to break the paint if they want to find a way to win. Whether Tyrese Haliburton plays tonight or not, they're going to have to actually grab the ball with two hands before it hits the floor after it comes off the rim. Okay, I'd call it rebounding, but for some reason, these Pacer players don't understand pretty simple two-syllable words. Okay, it is the same thing time and time again. Whether Haliburton plays or not, tonight or not, they have to rebound better, right? They can't allow Isaiah Hartenstein to grab 4 offensive rebounds. The Thunder had 19 offensive rebounds in Game 5. That can't happen again. This is what the Thunder do. They just out-possession everybody. You can't turn the basketball over 23 times like the Pacers did in Game 5. Pascal Siakam can't turn it over 6 times. Andrew Nembhard can't turn it over 4 times. Tyrese Haliburton, if he plays tonight, he can't turn it over 4 times. Just keep working your way through the list because turnovers have been a major issue for this Pacers team throughout this series. And the games where they haven't turned it over, they've had chances to win. Game 4, they didn't turn the ball over a ton. They had a chance to win late. Game 2, they turned it over a bunch and they got blown out. Game 3, they didn't turn it over much and they won. They have to avoid turning the basketball over. It is the most important thing going on in this game tonight, whether Tyrese Haliburton plays or not. They have to take better care of the basketball because every possession in the NBA Finals, every possession in an elimination game of the NBA Finals matters so much more. They can't turn it over. The other thing that I didn't think I'd be talking about at this point in the series is the Pacers have to figure out a way to slow down Jalen Williams. He has just been a menace in this series. Here's Coach Carlisle yesterday talking about Jalen Williams and all the problems that he poses.
Yeah, he's the quintessential modern day wing. He can do everything. He can attack off the dribble. He can make plays and pass the ball. He shoots the 3. He shoots mid-range. He finishes. He gets the n-ones. He creates a constant vertical threat on the rim. And I don't know him personally, but he looks like a great person and a great young leader on that team. And he's a guy that we gotta slow down somehow, and it's not easy.
Coach Carlisle right there talking about Jalen Williams and just how tough he's been in the series. Tyler Fox chiming in over on Twitter. He said that Tyler Fox saying he'd be shocked if Tyrese Haliburton didn't play tonight. However, he needs a short leash if the productivity isn't there. Totally agree. I think he'll have it. I think everyone's going to be on a relatively short leash tonight, given that it is Game 6, and if they lose, they're going home. And for Aaron Nesmith, that leash is probably going to start on defense. Can he slow down Jalen Williams, who gave him 40 in Game 5? Whether Tyrese Haliburton plays or not, they have to solve this Jalen Williams problem. They've had some games where they've had success slowing down Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That is a testament to Andrew Nembhard and how good of a defender he is. Jalen Williams, though, has been problematic. 25 points or more in the last 3 games. Games 1 and 2, Game 1, he wasn't very good at all. Game 2, he was much better. And, 3, 4, and 5, this dude has just done everything. He's rebounded. He scored at the rim. He's made threes. He's so good going left. He's hit that little step back jumper from the mid range. He's just done everything that makes him a good player. And I'm very intrigued to see if the Pacers change their defense at all to try to slow him down a little bit, because I think I feel better about Adrian Nembhard slowing down Shai Gilgeous-Alexander than I do anyone else for the Pacers slowing down Jalen Williams. Do they show him too? Do they deny him the ball like they've done with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander throughout this series? So what do they do to slow him down? I am very intrigued to see what solutions Coach Carlisle and the rest of this Pacers coaching staff come up with to give him issues, because they haven't done that at all in these last 3 games. And it's why they're 2-1 in these last 3 games. Last thing here about the Pacers tonight. And look, if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play, I don't think they're going to win. They certainly can, because shooting variance is a real thing. The Pacers could come out and shoot 17 of 40 from 3, and the Thunder shoot 8 of 20. And all of a sudden, you've outscored your opponent by, 27 points from 3. If you do that, then there's a pretty decent chance that you're going to win the game. So even if Haliburton doesn't play, there's still a chance. With that being said, if Haliburton doesn't play tonight, the Pacers are probably going to lose. But if he does play, then I think the Pacers will win. I do. And I think he's going to look a little better tonight than what most people think. Like 2 days of just around-the-clock treatment. Around-the-clock treatment. Like he said, needles, massage, stem cell treatment, all sorts of good stuff working on that calf. And I think he plays tonight, and he looked better in the second half of Game 5 than he did in the first, which tells me that they went into the locker room at halftime and they did something to his calf to make him feel better. I'm assuming they're going to do the exact same thing tonight. They're going to shoot him up with something to make that calf feel better, and he's going to be fine. So I think he plays tonight, and I think they win, because you can't fake desperate. You can't fake desperation. The Thunder, for the last 2 days, been sitting in their locker room. They've been going to practice, and that Mark Daigneault, their head coach, and Alex Caruso, their vet, have just been preaching and yelling, "Hey guys, we have an opportunity to clinch the NBA Finals," and all this kind of stuff. And it's true, they do have that opportunity tonight. But they know they got Game 7 in their back pocket. And no matter what you say, no matter how many times you try to mind trick yourself into thinking that, this is it, Game 6 tonight, if you're playing for the Thunder, if you're a fan of the Thunder, the fact that that you got Game 7 back at home, that helps a little bit. That eases you, right? And it can lead people, and this isn't on purpose. I think this is just human nature. It can lead people to not play as hard. Meanwhile, the Pacers, they know if they lose tonight, they go home for forever, or until next season. You know what I mean? And I think that is the type of thing that pushes you to grab every loose ball. I think every ball on the floor, I think the Pacers are going to be the first team to it tonight. Every 50-50 rebound, I think the Pacers are going to be the team that grabs it tonight, because that's what desperation does. It just gives you this little extra push. We talk about, I hate when people say I give 110%, because it's not possible. But let's say that it is. The Thunder are going to give 100% tonight because they have an opportunity to win the NBA Finals. The Pacers are going to, they're going to play with 110% energy and effort because they have an opportunity to lose the NBA Finals. Okay, they are going to do all of the little things: rebound, loose balls, switches. That I think there's going to be a little bit more attentive defensively. There won't be miscommunications where guys are sliding to the bucket and they're getting dunks because of it. I think that the closeouts to the perimeter, when the Alex Carusos and the Cason Wallaces of the Oklahoma City Thunder get an open look, I think that those closeouts are just going to have a little bit of extra urgency that the Thunders won't, because you can't fake being desperate. And that is a real thing that impacts playoff series all the time. Do you know why the Pacers lost Game 5 to the Knicks on the road? Because you can't fake desperate. The Knicks were significantly more desperate in that game. Pascal Siakam goes to his press conference and he's asked a question, and he talks about how the Knicks played harder than they did. And they did, because the Knicks were simply more desperate than the Pacers were in that game. And I think we're going to see something similar tonight with the Pacers against the Thunder. I think they win a close game. They win by like 4, final score like 112 to 107, 108, somewhere in there. And I think that just small amount, that little extra that desperation gives you is what pushes the Pacers over the top. And I think that I'm back on here tomorrow talking about a great Pacers win in a Pacers Thunder Game 7, the first Game 7 we've had potentially in the NBA Finals since 2016, 9 years ago. I can't wait for the game tonight. Give me the Pacers. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, we're going to talk about another very important part of this series. Rick Carlisle, one of the best coaches ever. He gives me confidence in the Pacers and their ability to compete tonight, whether Haliburton plays or not. And I'll tell you why when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
minutes in today's sports world. It's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Big thanks to Tony East for coming on the show earlier today. If you missed it, you can catch it in the podcast form later on today when it comes out. Thank you for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, it is always greatly, greatly appreciated. The Indiana Pacers are set to play the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Jeez. 6-point underdogs. Game's at 8:30 tonight. Not 6 o'clock, even though I kind of wish it was. These late starts are brutal. Like, they just are. Anyway, and I've got some faith in the Pacers tonight to at least make this a game, whether their star, Tyrese Haliburton, plays or not, because Rick Carlisle is a great coach. He's my favorite basketball coach ever. I think he's one of the 10 best coaches in the history of the NBA. He's got the wins. He's got the title in Dallas that kind of pushes him into that conversation. And if the Pacers come back down 3-2, by the way, they're plus 1,000 to win the NBA Finals this year. For reference, they're plus 850 to win the NBA Finals next year. They have better odds of winning the NBA Finals next season than they do of winning the one that they're currently in. And if the Pacers find a way to do that, then Rick Carlisle will definitely be one of the 10 best coaches in the history of the sport. And the biggest thing going for Coach Carlisle and why he's been able to coach for so long has been his ability to adapt to the NBA as it has changed throughout the year, and his ability to adapt and coach good teams despite having very different rosters at all of his different stops. Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce, kind of lay that out really well in this clip.
He don't get his due. And he's so unorthodox. Paul made a great point yesterday. He was watching the game, and P said, you know what I'm noticing? Man, there are no switches. They went back to a traditional basketball way of getting and sliding through picks. Mm-hmm. And we was watching the game, and for about 4 to 7 minutes, we were watching a component of traditional basketball.
On both sides.
And then it'll jump back into where we are now.
Yeah.
And we was watching this unorthodox going back and forth, and I was like, bro, you seeing this?
Right.
And it was to his genius. It actually made the game conducive to watch. Because we was watching them hard slide through, and I was like, dog, did he just slide through this? Like, man,
he's going through all the picks.
I think both coaches are pushing each other to be better and everything. And I don't think Rick gets his due, man. He's one of probably the more traditional coaches that has made the wave and jumped the wave. He wasn't so big on his way. I think his way has evolved in all of this. And that's growth, man. Shout out to Rick, man. He don't really get a lot of due, man. But I think as you win and as you be successful, man, the shit speaks for itself. So shout out to Rick Carlisle, man.
I agree with you. He don't get his due, for sure. I mean, he helped build up that Detroit team before they won the finals.
I was gonna say that,
right? Obviously, what he did for Dallas. Before Doc, they was trying to get him to coach the Celtics.
Really?
Before Doc came, he was on the short list. I remember that. To come to the Celtics. I always had a good admiration for him and his style. He's evolved. He ain't, all these older coaches, they just don't know how to coach the new. He evolved to this because the style he had in Dallas is completely different than the style he played in Indiana, whereas coaches be stubborn and like, this is the way we're going to play. Like, you see that with Tibbs. Tibbs got to evolve.
Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce right there talking about Coach Carlisle. And they're exactly right. We've seen Coach Carlisle build successful teams around all sorts of different players. His ability to change and adapt his system to best fit whatever team he is coaching is impressive. It's why he's won as many games as he has. When he was the head coach in Detroit, they won with defense. When he was the head coach in Indiana the first time around, they won with defense, and they ran their offense through Jermaine O'Neal. Ron Artest was a large part of the offense on that team as well. And then he goes to Dallas, where he helped coach them to an NBA championship, where he built this amazing offense around Dirk Nowitzki. All right, it was an offense that didn't have a real second scoring option. Jason Terry was the Mavericks' second leading scorer that year, and he came off the bench. They built a top 10 defense. They were 8th in defensive rating that year, with Dirk Nowitzki being on the floor for 40 minutes. If you remember Dirk, that dude was a terrible defender. He was awful. Great offensive player, obviously, but he couldn't guard anybody. Okay? And then the Mavericks win that championship. They get rid of everybody except for Dirk. And, they didn't try to defend their title, which is a little annoying. But, hey, whatever Mark Cuban wants to do, I guess. And because they got rid of everybody, they weren't good for a while. And they end up drafting Luka Doncic. And Rick Carlisle then helps build this heliocentric offense around Luka Doncic where he's spraying the ball around and he's scoring 1 million points. And the Mavericks were good running that system under Coach Carlisle. And then Coach Carlisle leaves Dallas. He comes back to Indiana. Now he's here. And we're in this current era of basketball where teams just give the ball to their best player. Like I saw a list the other day I saw it on the TV, and they were like, what happens, if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wins the finals or whatever? And a guy had, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is he'd be the 9th best point guard ever if he won the finals and the finals MVP this year. And I'm like, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander isn't a point guard. He's a shooting guard who brings the ball up the floor because every team just gives the ball to their best player, and they then just do everything. And then you have Rick Carlisle, who has built this offense that perfectly suits Tyrese Haliburton, his best player, and not just him, but the rest of this Pacers roster as well. And because of that, they've now had these back-to-back seasons with deep playoff runs. Coach Carlisle is one of the best coaches in the history of the NBA. Why do I bring this up? Why is this important for tonight? I think that in the most simplest form, I've talked about this a little bit. The simplest form of an NBA superstar is just a player who can get a shot for himself and can get a shot for somebody else on a consistent basis. The best coaches in any sport, they're just amazing problem solvers. They're able to look at the tools that they have, the players that they have, and they're able to figure out a solution to stop or put pressure on whatever offense or defense they're playing against. And Coach Carlisle is an elite problem solver. If Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play tonight, I promise you, whatever Coach Carlisle has cooked up for the Thunder defense, it will work with or without Tyrese Haliburton. It will. And he mentioned yesterday during his press conference that they have a plan in place for if Tyrese Haliburton plays and if he doesn't. That plan for if Haliburton doesn't play, I promise you, it's going to be really good because Coach Carlisle is an elite problem solver. And the team becomes different, obviously, right? If Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play, you're going to get more TJ McConnell. I know that excites everybody. Andrew Nembhard becomes much more involved than he already is. The defense becomes better and more important. We saw Coach Carlisle coach big-time playoff games last year with Tyrese Haliburton out. Games 3 and 4, Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics. Pacers don't have Tyrese Haliburton, right? He hurt his hamstring. They lost each game by 3 points. And if the Pacers, close those games last year the way that they did this year, then they probably would have won both of those games. But part of why the Pacers were able to be in both of those games is, one, because Coach Carlisle is an excellent head coach, and he's always going to give his team a chance. The other thing is the system that he has put in place offensively for the Pacers. It's not going to change whether Tyrese Haliburton plays or not. It's going to be a very similar system no matter what. Simple as that, right? They're going to come down the floor. They're going to move the ball all over the place. They're going to set screens. They're going to cut to the rim. They're going to do everything they can to break the paint because the Pacers offense starts when they break the paint. So offensively, I don't think that they're going to have a ton of roles changing. Andrew Nembhard is going to initiate the offense more than normal. He's been doing that all year. Pascal Siakam is going to get more touches than normal. I thought he touched the ball a lot in Game 5, and I'm a huge advocate of that. But those touches are going to go up here in Game 6, and that's a good thing. Miles Turner and Aaron Nesmith are going to have to make more threes. They have to. They're going to get more looks. Not much changes offensively for the Pacers with Tyrese Haliburton out, okay? What does change is the defense. They're going to be better defensively with Tyrese Haliburton out, and I have praised Tyrese Haliburton quite a bit for improving his defense. Last year they played the Boston Celtics and the Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They would call for a ball screen and they would get Haliburton switched onto them and they would just go to work. And they made his life so tough on defense. They went at him every time down the floor. And I appreciate him going into the offseason and saying, you know what, I'm going to get this hamstring healthy, and I'm going to come back next year a better defender so they can't do that to me. And sure enough, that's exactly what he did. And there's other stars in the NBA, Luka Doncic, for example, who haven't learned that lesson yet. So I applaud Tyrese Haliburton for taking that experience last year to heart and fixing it. With that being said, Benedict Mathurin is a better defender and rebounder, quite frankly, than Tyrese Haliburton. The defensive floor with Haliburton out goes up, and so does the ceiling. And while I don't think that the offense will change much if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play tonight, I am going to be interested to see if Coach Carlisle tweaks any of the defensive rules or assignments if Tyrese Haliburton is out of the game tonight. Do they maybe experiment with Benedict Mathurin on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because you know that Andrew Nembhard is going to be carrying a heavier load offensively? Do they change that assignment? Or do they say, you know what, Game 6, Andrew Nembhard's been our best Shai Gilgeous-Alexander defender all series long. We're leaving him on there. Are they more willing to double? Like, what are they willing to do differently? I'm going to be very intrigued to see, because I do think that the defense will change a little bit if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play. Now, I think he's going to play. I do. Okay? I think that he's going to play. You know, he was asked about his calf yesterday for like 5 minutes, and don't envy him at all. He got the same question time and time again for 5 minutes. So here is Tyrese Haliburton talking about his calf and what they're doing to help him get back onto the floor so that he can play tonight.
Nothing more than you've already seen. Practiced today, did what I could. I know Coach told you guys what the process will be tomorrow for me to play, and we're just taking it from there. I think I have to be as smart as I want to be. I have to understand the risks, ask the right questions. But I'm a competitor. I want to play. I'm gonna do everything in my power to play, and that's just what it is.
Can you give us an idea of what the treatment is like? Is it, I guess, I know, as close to 24 hours as you can do? Like, what do you do for a strained calf? What can you do for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think just around the clock stuff as much as I can. Massage, needles, hyperbaric, H-wave. I mean, just a bunch of different things to try to get it to feel as comfortable as you can going into it. The right tape and stuff, while I am performing. And I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of medical professionals who could give you a better answer, but just doing everything that I'm told, trying to do everything I can.
Tyrese Haliburton right there talking about his calf, where he's at with it, the treatment, if it's getting better, all that kind of stuff. He's going to play tonight. I would be very surprised if he didn't. He played the entire second half the other night. They probably shot him up with something at halftime, and it was good enough for him to come out and play. Now they've had 2 days worth to shoot him up with stuff and to massage it and put needles in it and give stem cell treatment to it and do all that kind of stuff. He's going to play tonight. Hopefully, we don't have a Kevin Durant 2019 scenario where, he has like a calf strain and then he comes out and then he tears his Achilles. Okay, I don't think that that's what's going on. I don't think that the Pacers would allow him to play if that was going on. But at the same time, like Tyrese Haliburton said, he is a competitor. He wants to play. He's doing everything he can to get back out there on the floor. And I think that we're going to see him tonight. Because we're going to see him tonight, I like the Pacers to win. They play better at home. Role players tend to play better at home than they do on the road. And I think we see him play tonight, and I think that the Pacers find a way to win. I'm going to tell you why I think they find a way to win when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe. Also streaming on my personal channel today as well. My take is you can subscribe to that channel as well. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. You can watch the show on X as well, _ Jonathan Smith to follow me and watch the show there. Give me the Pacers tonight. I think Tyrese Haliburton plays. 2 days of nothing but treatment on that calf, staying off of it. As he said, he's doing everything that he can to play. And I think he's actually going to be really good tonight. He's just got this habit of bouncing back. He played his worst playoff game of his career in Game 5. And I don't think it was because he's hurt. I think it's because Lou Dort is an incredible defender, a guy who got, Defensive Player of the Year votes as a perimeter player. Like, Defensive Player of the Year is an award that always goes to a center. Like, there's a very few number of non-centers that have won that award. Kawhi Leonard, Michael Jordan, Marcus Smart won it most recently as a non-center. But usually it goes to a center. So if you are a perimeter player getting votes for that award, then that's really all that you need to know about how good of a defender that player is. So for me, I thought that the reason why Haliburton struggled in Game 5 was less because of the calf and more so because Lou Dort is this incredible defender. The Pacers have got to figure out some sort of way to get Lou Dort off of Haliburton and to keep him off Haliburton. One of my least favorite things, and the Pacers have done it in this series, one of my least favorite things that NBA teams do is they'll get a switch that they like. And they'll be like, oh, this is great. We've got, Chet Holmgren defending Tyrese Haliburton, okay? Or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander defending Tyrese Haliburton. And then they'll call for a ball screen, and whoever's setting the screen is being defended by the guy that you don't want defending your best player. So, they'll call for a screen, and Miles Turner will come set it while he's being defended by Lou Dort. And it's like, no. The whole point of this offensive possession was to get Lou Dort not on Tyrese Haliburton. And now you're going to screen. You're going to let him switch back onto Haliburton. So the Pacers have to avoid doing that tonight. Whether Haliburton plays or not, they've got to get Lou Dort defending someone off the ball. All right, and if he's defending Haliburton off the ball, then you've got to find a way to get Haliburton the ball back with Lou Dort either a step behind him or with Lou Dort having to switch off onto somebody else while the play is going on. So this Pacers team, offensively, they've got to figure out a way to not allow Lou Dort to be as impactful. And I think that they're going to figure out a way to do it. I don't know what it looks like. I'm not smart enough to do that. If I was, I would be coaching, wouldn't be here. And so that is one of the things that I'm going to be looking at tonight. Like, how do the Pacers figure out a way to get Lou Dort off of the primary ball handler, right? Because yes, Alex Caruso is a really good defender. Yes, Cason Wallace is a really good defender. But those two players don't have the physical strength to kind of control where you go. Like, that's the toughest thing about breaking down Lou Dort. Like, that dude, if you go left, he's just going to stick his arm out. And Haliburton's, super skinny. And he's going to run into that and be like, oh, I guess I can't go that way. Let me try to go the other way. Oh, wait. He stuck his arm out again. Oh, no. And so they have to find a way to not allow for Lou Dort to be as impactful defensively as he's been in some of these games. So, and the biggest way to do that is to get him defending someone off the ball. Okay. In addition to that, I also like the Pacers. I think they're going to shoot the ball really well. I think Miles Turner has a really big game tonight. And he needs to have one. He's due for a big one. He hasn't had a big one in quite some time here. He played his best game of the series in Game 5. He wasn't great. He wasn't terrible, but that was his best game of the series so far. 13 points on 3 of 5 shooting. He went to the rim a lot. Took 7 foul shots, made 6 of them. Okay, and the free throw line is a magical place. You go to the free throw line, you see the ball go in the bucket, and all of a sudden you start scoring the basketball a little bit more. And we've seen that happen in this series. Jalen Williams, game 1, comes out, doesn't play very well, shoots the ball pretty poorly, only took 4 foul shots in that game. Game 2, he's like, you know what? I'm going to the rim. And more importantly, I'm going to get fouled when I go to the rim. And he took 9 free throws in game 2, made 8 of them. Games 3, 4, and 5, he has torched the Pacers time and time again. 26 points, 28 points, 40 in game 5. The free throw line is what got him going. It got him back in that rhythm. And I'm hoping that we see something similar with Miles Turner tonight because he's been in quite a slump. Quite the slump. Hasn't hit more than 2 threes in a game in like a month now. It's been brutal as of late for him. But as I said, he saw some free throws go down. He was 1 of 2 from 3 in game 5. Hopefully that just gives him a little bit of confidence because he has to be an offensive threat tonight if the Pacers want to, break that 110-point mark, which seems to be the magic number for them to win games in this series. Okay, and it's really not even about making shots. It's more about just getting shots up. Okay, so he's got to rebound better. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think more importantly than that, he has to shoot the ball better. They're not even like Thunder. They're not even concerned about him getting those threes up. They're like, that's fine. You're 1 for your last 8. You just keep chucking, man. And he needs to keep chucking. If he's open, he needs to shoot the basketball because he's a good shooter. And hopefully tonight we see him pair that good shooting with the driving ability that we saw him kind of display a little bit in game 5. Okay, the Pacers they have to get a good bench game as well. The bench is so important in this series. It seems like that has kind of been the thing that has determined whether or not teams have won or lost. And for the Pacers, mainly, that involves Benedict Mathurin and TJ McConnell. Obviously, if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play, then they're both going to have to be better than good. I think we're going to see a lot of Mathurin tonight, whether Haliburton plays or not. If he doesn't play, then he'll start and he'll play a pretty significant amount of minutes because of that. But even if Haliburton does play, I do think we see a little bit more Mathurin because of his ability to break the paint and his ability to get his own shot. Okay, he's also become a good defender. And so I think we're going to see quite a bit of him. And hopefully tonight is a boom night because he's been pretty boom or bust throughout these playoffs. He's either gotten 13 points or more, or he's barely scored. He's had one game where he scored 11. Every other game has been 13 or more, or like 8 or less. He has been very boom or bust. And hopefully tonight's a night where he booms and he scores a whole bunch of points. And we've seen him do that. Obviously, game 3 in this series, 27 points. Everyone's talking about Mathurin in the future and, Mathurin, amazing. He did Sports Center with Scott Van Pelt right afterwards, right? Game 3 against Cleveland. In that series, he goes for 23 points. Against the Knicks, game 4, he went for 20. Game 5, he went for 23. He needs to have one of those nights. And for him to have one of those nights, he needs to take 10, 11, 12 free throws. Because if he does that and he makes a couple threes, and the big thing with the free throw number is if he takes a lot of free throws, it means he's finding his way to the rim. And that's really where he can be valuable in this series. Like when you look at the Pacers, it's really interesting. Their 2 best players at getting to the rim come off the bench, Mathurin and McConnell. And that's why McConnell's been so good in this series, because he's been able to break the paint against this Thunder defense. And Mathurin has to figure out a way to do the same thing, whether that's through brute force, lowering the shoulder and getting there, or whether it's by speed, beating somebody off the bounce, whatever. He has to break the paint tonight. Because when he does, he's a really good player. So when he's relying on his jumper, that things can be a little rough. So I'm going to be looking for Mathurin to take a lot of free throws tonight. If he does, then that's usually an indication that he's having a good game. He's got to get to the foul line, and he has to score the basketball. He wants to be the guy. He thinks he's the guy. Benedict Mathurin thinks he's as good as any other basketball player in the world. And tonight, if Tyrese Haliburton doesn't play, then Benedict Mathurin is going to have the opportunity to show the world that he is as good as he thinks that he is. Okay, Andrew Nembhard, he has to be great whether Haliburton plays or not. Okay, he's always going to be important in this series just because of how often he has the basketball. Obviously, he's got a big assignment on defense defending Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's not easy. But the Pacers are putting the ball in his hands no matter what tonight, whether Haliburton plays or not. and he has to be up for it. He has slowly gotten worse throughout this series. The 4 turnovers in game 4 were just brutally bad. The errant throw out of bounds to Benedict Mathurin that would have resulted in a layup in the middle of that big-time Pacers run. Like, that was just, like in the NFL, you have drive killers, where a quarterback sails one over the head of someone, and instead of it being, 2nd and 4, it's still first. It's instead of it being 2nd and 4, it's 2nd and 10, or a guy drops a pass on 2nd and 8, and instead of it being 3rd and 2, it's 3rd and 8, and then the next thing you know, you're punting. Those are drive killers. That Andrew Nembhard turnover, where he threw it out of bounds, it was a run killer for the Pacers. And then he had the handoff where, the Pacers cut it down to 2. And then, he has the dribble handoff miscommunication with Haliburton, and it results in another turnover. And then the Thunder just kind of ran away after that point. It gave the Thunder an opportunity to stop and catch their breath and to just settle in. He can't have turnovers like that tonight. He has got to make better decisions and better passes with the basketball. He's got to be better. He was great in game 1, 14 points, 6 assists, only 2 turnovers. If he does that tonight, Pacers are going to have a chance. But since that game, he's really struggled. 11 points and 4 assists with only 1 turnover in game 2. That's not a great game, not a good game either. He wasn't very efficient shooting the basketball in that game. He was pretty average in that one, I guess. Game 3, only 8 points, only 1 assist, 3 turnovers. Game 4, 10 points, 4 assists, 4 turnovers. That's not a good game. And then in game 5, he had 7 points, 3 assists, and 4 turnovers. He has slowly gotten worse, and that can't continue. He has to be good. Okay? If Haliburton plays, he's got to be good. If he doesn't play, then he better be great. And we've seen him be great without Haliburton before. Let's just look back at last year. Games 3 and 4 against the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals. Andrew Nembhard was amazing. 32 points, 9 assists in game 3, 24 points, 10 assists in game 4. Did all that while being defended by Drew Holiday and Derek White, 2 of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. I don't think he's going to be quite that good against the Thunder because the Thunder team defensively is nasty. But can he get 18 and 7 if Haliburton doesn't play? I think that's the mark for me. He's got to get around those numbers if the Pacers are going to have a chance to win without Tyrese Haliburton. But he's not the only player who has to be good. Pascal Siakam. He's got to be involved. Okay, I've pounded the table for him to get more touches after every game this series, and he's got to touch the ball a lot tonight. I thought that the Pacers did a really good job of getting him the basketball in good spots in game 5. I know he turned it over 6 times. I've seen people complain about that nonstop. Look, he had 3 turnovers in the first quarter, only turned it over 3 times after that. Once he slowed down, and this has kind of been a trend in the series, the Pacers have come out in some of these games a little bit too amped up, and they're playing out of control. When they're in control and they're just kind of moving at their own pace, which is fast, they're fine. And I think Pascal Siakam's game 5 performance was a really good example of that. Aside from that game, he's been really good at not turning the basketball over, which is important because he's going to touch the ball a lot tonight. And if Haliburton doesn't play, that Thunder defense is going to swarm him like crazy, and they're going to make his life really, really hard. So here are his turnover numbers throughout the series. Obviously, 6 in game 5, 1 in game 4, 0 in game 3, 2 in game 2, and then 1 in game 1. He can't have another 6 turnover game tonight, especially if Haliburton doesn't play. That's not going to get it done, right? He's going to have the ball a lot more tonight, especially if Tyrese is out. Okay, so this has to be a good decision-making game from him, and that's where the Pacers are going to miss Tyrese Haliburton the most. He's their best decision-maker. And when you have a good decision-maker, it's not just their ability to find guys that are open. It's their ability to find guys in good spots, which I know sounds like a really similar thing. But it's the ability to make one pass knowing what the second pass should be. Okay, there are guys who get assists, and that's cool. Off just drive and kick, that's awesome. The number of hockey assists that Tyrese Haliburton obtains throughout the course of a game is really, really impressive. And it's part of why his decision-making is so important. He doesn't just put guys in positions to score. He puts guys in positions to make plays. whether that's score or make the extra pass, which leads to a bucket. The Pacers aren't going to have that tonight. And you're going to need that. You need that against the Thunder because one pass doesn't beat this Thunder defense. It just doesn't. Okay? It'd be great if it did, but it doesn't. So I'm very intrigued to see what the Pacers look like, whether Haliburton plays or not. I'm interested to see how much he plays. I think we're going to see a lot of threes from the Pacers tonight if Haliburton doesn't play. Just because the three-point shot is the ultimate equalizer in the NBA. If the Pacers shoot 17 of 40 tonight from three, whether Tyrese Haliburton plays or not, then the Pacers are going to have a pretty decent chance to win that game because that's a high percentage from three on a whole lot of looks. So we'll see how it goes. I like the Pacers tonight. I think Tyrese Haliburton plays, which means I like the Pacers. If he doesn't play, then take the Thunder. take the Thunder. If you think he's not going to play, go ahead and bet the Thunder -6 right now. But if you think he is going to play, take the Pacers. I think tomorrow we're talking about a Game 7 on Sunday. I hope we get it. It'll be the first Game 7 since 2016, when LeBron and the Cavaliers made that amazing comeback against the 73-9 Golden State Warriors. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to tune into The Real Jonathan Smith Show. I greatly appreciate it, as always. You can follow me on X, __ Jonathan Smith, to watch the show there. You can watch the show over on Indy's Sports Ticket. And if you want more from me, you can go check out the My Take Is YouTube page as well. Thank you once again for tuning in. I'll talk to you tomorrow starting at 10 a.m. to noon. The Real Jonathan Smith Show. Thank you again for watching. I'll talk to you tomorrow.